In an Atlanta courtroom, a nurse in blood-stained scrubs faces a judge's scorn, her kid's future on the line. She's got no time to change, no energy to spare, just a truth so raw it silences the room and sparks a movement. This is Sarah Collins, and her fight is about to rewrite what strength really means. The clock in the Atlanta courthouse hit 9:00 a.m., and every seat was taken. At the front, Sarah Collins, a 38-year-old single mom and ICU nurse, sat in her wrinkled green scrubs, her hair pulled into a messy ponytail. She'd just finished a brutal 14-hour shift at Mercy General, saving lives and holding hands through chaos. No time to change, no time to sleep. She raced straight to court. This wasn't just any hearing. It was a fight for custody of her 2 kids, threatened by her ex, who'd hired a hotshot lawyer to paint her as an absent, unstable mom. Sarah had proof, letters, co-workers ready to vote, but nothing prepared her for Judge Evelyn Carter. At 67, Carter ran her courtroom like a fortress, her tailored suit crisp, her gaze razor-sharp. She looked up, spotted Sarah's scrubs, and her eyes narrowed. "Ms. Collins," she snapped, "is this a hospital or a courtroom?" Sarah swallowed hard. "Your Honor, I came straight from my shift." Carter's brow arched. "This is a custody hearing, not a locker room. You think scrubs are appropriate?" The room buzzed with whispers. Sarah's lawyer, Tom Rivera, started to protest, but Carter shut him down. "Enough. Ms. Collins, you're here to prove you're a fit mother, and you show up looking like you just rolled out of bed?" The crowd shifted, some cringing, others staring, but Sarah didn't buckle. She locked eyes with Carter, her voice calm but firm. "Your Honor, these scrubs have blood on them, not mine. A 9-year-old girl I kept alive at 5:03 AE after she crashed in the ICU. I could have gone home to change and been late, or I could save her. I chose her." The courtroom went dead silent. Carter opened her mouth, but no words came. Sarah's words hit like a shockwave, her scrubs suddenly more powerful than any suit. Her hands, still smudged with marker from the crash cart, stayed steady. Tom stared, speechless. In the back, a young clerk slipped out her phone, hitting record. The crowd leaned in, hanging on every word. Carter's jaw tightened. "This isn't a soap opera, Ms. Collins." Sarah tilted her head, unshaken. "No, ma'am, it's a courtroom, and I showed up, blood and all, because that's what I do. Save kids, mine or someone else's." The gavel cracked like thunder. "Let's move on," Carter barked, but the room wasn't the same. Sarah's truth had landed, and it was louder than any judge's hammer. By noon, Sarah Collins' courtroom moment was blowing up online. A shaky phone clip hit YouTube titled, "Nurse-Owned Judge in Scrubs," and racked up 800,000 views before the lunch break. By 3 p.m. it was at 6 million, with scrubs over suits and nurse hero trending on X. Her words, "I chose to save a life," were everywhere, shared by influencers, nurses, even celebrities. Local Atlanta news ran it at 4 p.m. by dinner. CNN and Fox were looping it nationwide. But Sarah? She wasn't checking her phone. Still in her blood-stained green scrubs, she was counting minutes, needing to grab her son from school after the hearing. Those scrubs weren't just clothes anymore. They were a symbol, carrying a fight bigger than she knew. Back in the courtroom, the air was thick. The opposing lawyer, Victor Hayes, a smug 40-something in a $3,000 zero-cent suit, strutted to the podium, his gold watch glinting. He flashed a slick grin. "Ms. Collins, you chose to work a night shift knowing you had this custody hearing today, correct?" Sarah nodded, unflinching. "Yes." "So you put your job over preparing for this case, over your kids?" Opted to turn and face the crowd. His tone dripped with accusation. The crowd gasped, a few shaking their heads. Sarah leaned forward, her voice steady as steel. "No, Mr. Hayes. I stayed to save a kid who was flatlining at 5 a.m. If that was my son on that table, I'd pray someone stayed for him too. I didn't choose work over my kids. I chose to be the mom who shows up when lives are on the line." Hayes froze, his smirk fading. The gallery stirred. A woman in the back wiped tears. Sarah kept going, her eyes fierce. And let's be clear, every shift I pull pays our rent, buys their shoes, covers the counseling they needed after their dad bailed. These scrubs might not impress you, but they keep my family standing. Judge Carter clutched her gavel, silent for the first time all morning, her face unreadable. Hayes coughed, trying to regroup. You seem emotional, Miss Collins, that's understandable. Emotional, Sarah cut in, her voice low but razor-sharp. I'm exhausted, there's a difference. One's weakness, the other is what you get when you're holding your kid's world together while people like you say I'm not enough because my clothes aren't pressed. The room shifted. It wasn't about evidence or procedure anymore. It was about raw, unapologetic truth. Sarah, in her wrinkled scrubs and smudged eyeliner, wasn't just fighting for custody. She was redefining strength, and everyone felt it. The courtroom hung in a tense hush after Sarah's words, the kind where rules clash with raw humanity. Victor Hayes slunk back to his seat, shuffling papers that now felt pointless. Judge Carter called for a break, but as the bailiff started moving people out, Sarah's lawyer, Tom Rivera, shot to his feet. Your Honor, one moment, may we call a witness before recess? Carter sighed, waving a hand. Go ahead. The doors swung open, and in strode Dr. Karen Ellis, head of trauma at Mercy General. Mid-50s, sharp in a white coat over a sleek blazer, she marched to the witness stand with zero hesitation, no notes in hand. Sarah's jaw dropped. She had no clue her boss was coming. Dr. Ellis took the oath, then fixed her gaze on Carter, kneeling in the wake of disaster, then stepped back into the limelight as a human. And so if you're not wearing scrubs and you are, then you are like her too, because some in this room think her scrubs mean she's careless or disrespectful. The room tightened. Carter sat up straighter. Dr. Ellis, Sarah's the nurse I trust when rookies panic in a crisis. She's the one holding a kid's hand when their parents are stuck miles away. Last summer, she skipped lunch for a month straight so her team could eat. She didn't wear scrubs to mock this court. She wore them because she stayed late to save a girl who stopped breathing, then raced here to fight for her own kids. She turned to Carter, voice like iron. If that's disrespect, I suggest everyone in a robe spends a night in our trauma bay. Silence gripped the room. The court reporter's fingers froze. Carter blinked, caught off guard. Then Dr. Ellis pulled a folded paper from her pocket. Your Honor, I'd like to submit this letter from the parents of the girl Sarah saved this morning. They wrote it in the ICU waiting room when they heard where she went. She handed it to the clerk. It was brief, just a few lines. To the court, Sarah Collins stayed past her shift to keep our daughter alive. Without her, we'd have lost her. Let her keep her kids. She's more than earned it. Sniffles echoed from the crowd. Carter stayed silent, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt. Sarah, still seated, brushed a tear away, not from fragility, but from hearing the truth she'd never dared to demand. The gavel stayed still as if it knew the moment was too big to interrupt. The courtroom wasn't just a room anymore, it was a battleground, where Sarah's scrubs had rewritten the rules. When the courtroom broke for lunch, nobody left. The talk wasn't about custody laws or legal jargon. It was about Sarah Collins, the ICU nurse who stood tall in her green scrubs, choosing a kid's life over courtroom polish and showing everyone what real courage looks like. Outside the Atlanta courthouse, a crowd swelled. Nurses, paramedics, even a couple of firefighters still in gear. Word of Sarah's stand had gone viral. By 12:30 p.m., MSNBC ran a segment called Nurses' Scrubs Shake the System. ABC's ticker read, ICU hero silences court with raw truth. Sarah's line, I chose to save a life, was a battle cry, not loud but undeniable, spreading like wildfire across America. In her chambers, Judge Evelyn Carter sat alone, poring over the morning's transcript. She read Sarah's words again, not as a judge, but as a mother, and it hit hard. She'd never had to pick between saving a stranger's kid and fighting for her own. Sarah had done both in one morning, and it left Carter's usual control feeling hollow. Meanwhile, Sarah slumped on a hallway bench, nibbling a protein bar. Her lawyer, Tom Rivera, sat beside her. You holding up? He asked. She nodded. I'm not trying to be some hero, Tom grinned. Heroes are fake, you're real, Sarah smirked. Real's messy. So are scrubs, Tom shot back. A young bailiff approached, hesitant. My dad's a nurse. Thank you for not changing, for standing up. Sarah didn't make a speech. She just touched the girl's arm and said, Your dad's the real deal. I just wore the uniform today. When court resumed, the gallery was packed, standing room only. A line of nurses stood against the wall, silent but solid, like a guard of honor. Judge Carter walked in, her gavel cracking once. Court's back in session, she said. But her voice, once cold and commanding, now carried a new weight. Respect. Sarah's scrubs had shown her what strength really meant, and it shook her. She felt exposed, not by Sarah or the witnesses, but by the truth they'd forced into her courtroom. Clearing her throat, Carter looked straight at Sarah. Ms. Collins, you said you didn't choose work over your kids. You chose to be the mom you'd want in a crisis. That stuck with me. The crowd held its breath. This court values decorum, but I was wrong. Decorum isn't a suit. It's sacrifice without whining. You showed that in the scrubs I criticized. She turned to the court reporter. Strike every word I said about Ms. Collins' attire from the record, permanently. Murmurs spread. Carter wasn't done. I've seen liars in designer suits and frauds in ties. Today, I saw a woman who saved a life and got shamed for not dressing up. The Collins, I owe you an apology and my thanks. The gallery rose, one by one, a nurse, a clerk, then everyone, even Victor Hayes, the opposing lawyer, head bowed. Sarah froze, then stood, not for herself, but with them. Carter's voice wavered, just a fraction. Let the record show, strength doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it's scrubs, late and tired, still holding everything together. In that moment, the Atlanta courtroom wasn't split by robes, benches, or titles. It was united by Sarah Collins, a nurse who didn't shout or plead but showed up, exhausted, in blood-stained scrubs, and proved that truth outshines any suit. As Sarah sat, the nurses along the walls stood like sentinels, silent but unwavering. Even the bailiff, usually stiff as stone, stood taller, as if remembering what justice was meant to guard. Judge Carter turned to the lawyers. Closing arguments. Proceed. Tom Rivera, Sarah's attorney, rose calmly. Your Honor, my client's actions, her supervisor's testimony, the letter from that girl's parents, and this room's reactions say more than I ever could. He nodded and sat. Victor Hayes, the opposing lawyer, stood slowly. His usual smug grin was gone. He glanced at Sarah, hair messy, scrubs wrinkled, eyes steady, and something broke in him. I withdraw my closing argument, he said, voice low. Gasps rippled through the crowd. He faced the gallery, then the judge. I've handled cases like this for years, but today, I'm ashamed. Ms. Collins, I was wrong. Sarah blinked, no tears, no words. This wasn't a movie. It was her life, and for the first time in ages, she felt seen, not judged. Carter folded her hands. I've made my decision. The room froze. Full physical and legal custody remains with Ms. Sarah Collins. There's no evidence, legal or moral, that her children belong anywhere else. This court sees her sacrifice, her strength, her stability. Sarah shut her eyes, relief washing over her. Her messy, bone-tired life wasn't just enough. It was everything her kids needed. Carter continued. Ms. Collins, you've reminded us that justice serves those who show up, even when they're running on fumes. The crowd stayed quiet, waiting. Then Carter added, from now on, nurses coming here straight from a shift get water, not lectures. About that as well. That's when it started, that one clap from the back, then another, until the entire room erupted in a standing ovation. It wasn't for the ruling or a win. It was for a woman who didn't have time to change because she was saving a life. The applause roared for over a minute, unstopped by gavel or bailiff. Carter leaned back, letting it fill the room like a long overdue rain. Sarah stood still, not proud, just present, as she always was, whether in an ICU, a courtroom, or tucking her son in at night. When the session ended, a mob waited outside, cameras flashing, reporters shouting her name. Sarah ignored them. pushing through in her scrubs and sneakers to hug her kids on the courthouse steps. "Is it over, Mom?" her son asked. She smiled. "No, buddy, it's just beginning." That night, Sarah Collins' story lit up every major network, not as gossip or a courtroom stunt, but as a wake-up call about showing up, exhausted, for what matters. CBS ran a headline, "Nurses Stand Teaches Judge True Grit." NBC called it "Scrubs That Shook a Nation." The Daily Beast wrote, "Nurse Shamed for Uniform Gets Standing Ovation." From Scrubs Pride and Sarah Collins trended hard, with hospitals nationwide launching Scrubs Day, urging staff to wear their uniforms loud and proud. T-shirts popped up online with Sarah's words, "Save a life or change clothes. I picked life." A CNN anchor teared up reading her story live, but Sarah? She was at home, folding laundry, helping her daughter with algebra, and reheating pizza. A neighbor dropped by with a pile of news articles. "You're viral, Sarah." She shrugged. "I don't need to be viral. I just need to be there for my kids." Later, her daughter looked up from her homework. "Will people forget you, Mom?" Sarah hugged her close. "They might forget my name, but they won't forget what we proved. Strength isn't loud. It's showing up when it's tough." As night fell, nurses across America tucked in their kids, set alarms for dawn shifts, and laid out scrubs with a new spark of pride. 3 weeks later, Sarah got a call from the curator of the National Workers' Heritage Museum. "Miss Collins, we'd like your scrubs for a permanent exhibit," displayed beside a 9/11 firefighter's jacket and a coal miner's cap. "You showed up for a nation that often overlooks its backbone." Sarah paused, staring at the folded scrubs in her drawer, still faintly stained with that day's fight. They weren't just fabricated phrases, they were her moment of refusing to apologize and claiming something bigger. She mailed them quietly. The museum's plaque read, "The Scrubs That Stood." Worn by Sarah Collins after a 14-hour shift, she faced a courtroom and redefined strength as grit, grace, and duty. Schools started visiting the exhibit. A Seattle teacher built a lesson plan called "Everyday Heroes, Quiet Acts, Big Change." Sarah got thousands of letters from nurses, single dads, teens, even a circuit court judge who wrote, "I used to judge by appearances. You showed me sacrifice is the real measure." Still, Sarah dodged the spotlight, working night shifts, kissing her kids goodnight, always showing up. One morning, walking her daughter to school, the girl grinned. "I'm going to wear scrubs when I grow up." Sarah knelt, zipping her backpack. "Wear what you want, sweetie. Just be there for those who need you." The girl nodded, and in that moment, under a clear sky, a spark passed on. Sarah's story hit Congress soon after. Lawmakers, moved by her viral moment, pushed the Collins Rule, a law protecting emergency workers from being penalized for wearing uniforms in court. Post-shift. It passed in 4 states within months. One senator said, "She didn't aim to change laws, she just did her job, but her guts rewrote the rules." Courts nationwide updated dress codes, allowing scrubs for those straight from work. A judge wrote in a ruling, "My robe doesn't let me demand an apology from someone who saved a life." Back in Atlanta, Sarah didn't chase fame or book deals. She lived as always. One shift, one skinned knee, one bedtime story at a time. Then the mayor announced the city's Nurses' Day would become Sarah Collins Day, honoring those who show up. Her daughter ran in, waving a school flyer. "Mom, they named a day after you." Sarah poured her coffee, smiling. "No, kiddo, it's for what we do. We don't wait for perfect, we just go." Her daughter beamed. Outside, hospital bells chimed, scrubs were worn with extra swagger, and judges in courtrooms paused when they saw green, because Sarah Collins didn't set out to be loud. She was too tired to fake it, too brave to back down, and too devoted to walk away from those she loved, whether they needed a nurse or a mom who never missed a fight. Sarah Collins' story isn't just a courtroom drama, it's a lesson in showing up no matter how tired or judged you are. Her scrubs, stained with blood and grit, remind us that true strength lies in sacrifice, not perfection. In our own lives, we can apply this by prioritizing what matters, whether it's a late-night call to help a friend, standing up for what's right, or pushing through exhaustion to be there for family. Let's honor the unsung heroes around us, the ones who don't wait for applause, but change the world quietly. Share your story in the comments. Who's the Sarah Collins in your life? Like, subscribe, and hit that bell to join us for more stories that inspire. Thank you for watching, and let's keep showing up for each other.